It will be something that I think over time, the humans will become more and more comfortable with just talking to their AI. I'd replace my Google mobile app with my ChatGPT. It might be the most valuable and most practical one that most people don't use. That I realized that ChatGPT mobile app is actually a better version of the Google mobile app, where instead of every time you run into any questions or conundrums, instead of going to Google search, what if instead you go to ChatGPT to ask your questions? So when I realized this about a year ago, I'd replaced my Google mobile app with so it's in the same place. For those that are seeing this on video, you have to see it. It's on the bottom right location of my phone. And
It's weird because it's the exact same spot on my phone.
it is in the last episode, but it's definitely worthwhile. So call to action, definitely go and, at the very least, install the ChatGPT mobile app from the App Store and place it on your home screen. And if anything, I would say replace your Google to build that habit of, every time you run into any questions that you have, so you pull that out. But what it can do, obviously, first is search for whatever questions that you have. So questions that come up, I don't know how to do this, throw that in. That's obviously the first thing. Second thing that I think a lot of people don't use it for is taking pictures or uploading a picture of something that you need further explanation or you don't understand. Let's just say you have a page of notes and you're like, you don't have time to go read it. You could literally take your phone out, take a picture with the mobile app and say, summarize this and give me the top 3 takeaways. That is super practical for us lawyers. Time is limited. Take a picture of it and, get those key takeaways. Also, it's multimodal, which means that there's also voice and audio capability. So just a couple of weeks ago, OpenAI did release their live conversational AI. On the bottom right, you'll see a little headphone icon and you click on that. And we actually did this in our last episode. You're able to talk to AI. I know it's weird and funky, like this awkward conversation, but it will be something that I think over time, the humans will become more and more comfortable with just talking to their AI, or at least it'll be on your computer. And it's as things come up, just the same way that you say, hey, blank, I don't want to say that word because it might initiate that for our listeners, but you'll be able to also do that with AI. Anytime, you're working, hey, by the way, can you answer this question for me? Can you do this for me? So yeah, the ChatGPT mobile app, I'm taking advantage of the search, taking advantage of the photo upload, and also of the conversational audio voice function is where it's at.
Now, Sam, have you found that you've had to give more thought to the questions you pose or the format that you pose them in? I mean, is it, when you type something into a Google search, oftentimes it doesn't really matter how you type it in, what order the terms are, just random thought. I want to explore this subject, and at least you get what Google can tell you back. But my experience with the ChatGPT is it's way more conversational, and that the results are really dependent I shouldn't say really dependent. They look to be more resolved the better you pose the question.
Exactly.
I mean, that's been your experience?
Yeah, that's pretty spot on. Basically, the answer you get from ChatGPT is only as good as your prompt. So the better the prompt, better the question, as you're saying, the better the response. And what I'm about to share with our listeners is if you know these 3 rules with ChatGPT, you'll be better than 80-90% of ChatGPT users. Rule number 1 is to provide context, as much context as possible. I mean, context just means information that you already have or know, just throw it in. It doesn't matter what format, it doesn't matter how it's, if there's spelling mistakes, grammar mistakes, or how it's formatted, it doesn't matter. Just literally go and copy and paste something that you already have on your computer, or something that you know, or something even possibly that you could pull out, either sometimes from ChatGPT itself or from Google, that you could add into the question.
Yeah.
Second is being specific with what you want, right? Being descriptive, detailed as possible, giving a more thorough explanation of what you need. If you ask a generic answer, you'll get if you ask a generic thing, you'll get a generic answer. If you ask a very specific thing about exactly what you want, then the AI will be able to exactly figure out what you want and give you that thorough explanation. And third is stream of consciousness. Don't be stingy with your words. Type your heart out. Don't hold anything back. Express your thoughts freely as possible. And the more you share, the better AI will to assist you. So overall, the overarching theme is just give it more context, basically.
Yeah, the sense that I got was that similar to what we would call long tail search, terms in a Google search, the longer the tail can be in ChatGPT, I think the better, my observation was, the results were.
Exactly. Yeah. That is like basically one form of thinking about it is more context, aka like long-term keywords. It was the same.
I'll give you an example of what I used it for since we last spoke. There's a little nuance in estate planning law where it intersects with family law, having to do with the right of a spouse to take the elective share in an estate. Okay, so if you try and write your spouse out of the will, your spouse can stand up and say, hey, wait a second, I have the statutory right to take my elective share. I've always had some difficulty explaining that to my clients, and just as a function of trying to work with ChatGPT, I had this conversation with the app and spelled out what I wanted to do. I wanted to create, a 1-minute description of what the elective share option is in the power of attorney document under Maryland law as it relates to the intersection. I just went through that whole spiel, and what I got was a really very nice description of it in text form. And then I further refined that to try and say, remove the legal jargon and explain it in terms that, an average high schooler would understand. And it revised the entire process until I got something that was really very useful. And I turned it into a script for a video and sent it out to everybody I knew.
That's spectacular.
That was a real world application of how to use ChatGPT.
I love it, Neil. All right, let's move to number 2, which is Adobe Enhanced Speech. For any of our lawyer friends who struggle with, you're creating videos and you're like, well, the audio doesn't sound good, so maybe I'm not going to put it up. Well, you never have to worry about that ever again. Doesn't matter the quality of your videos or your audio. If you're providing, creating videos for YouTube, creating videos for social media, you're creating amazing videos like Neil shared for your clients. If you want to sound nice and like professional, then Adobe Enhanced Speech is the right tool for it. It's $10 a month. It even has a free feature, which I believe gives you enough usage that you'll to test it out. All you do is you just drag the video file over, and within a couple of minutes, you get back a download of this crisp, professional sounding audio.
Yeah. So this is what I would refer to as, post-editing enhancement, because for a lot of us, particularly podcasters, we want that audio to sound fabulous. People will forgive a lot of things. They'll forgive, clutter in your background of your video, or they'll forgive maybe not so perfect eye contact or whatever. But what they won't forgive is poor audio. And you can overcome that with technology, having a good microphone and controlling your environment and so on and so forth. But there was always that requirement for post-production. And, most of us used a professional team to eliminate the background noise and get rid of the ums and the ahs. This is like having that team in your back pocket. You could do so at, a very cost-effective way. So if you are producing content that has audio to it, really, you should be taking advantage of this tool.
Yeah. Let me also add a little of a disclaimer in there too. I also realized that not all videos and audio needs to be enhanced either. There are certain situations where you want it to sound natural, right? Like natural sound. People, right, resonate with people. And if it's a little bit too artificially enhanced, right? It's like too much artificial makeup or the Zoom blur feature that, everybody has access to. If you use it too much, then people are going to be skeptical of pretty much you.
That's a very good point. I mean, it's dependent on what the purpose of the video is. If you're creating video that you're going to put into a polished advertisement, for instance, then you would want the quality of the audio to match the quality of the product. If you're making a video that you're going to send out on the quick to your client database, maybe it's more important there to have a more natural interaction with the recipient. So, point well made.